3. The Answer. Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The following program is sponsored by Max Out Savings Advisors. The views expressed during the broadcast are solely for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily express the views of KNTH, its management, Max Out Savings Advisors, or its sponsors. Max Out Savings Advisors and members of the Max Out Savings team may or may not hold securities mentioned during the show. Plan for your prosperity, prepare for your retirement, safeguard your savings, and nurture your investments. This is the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Now, here's your host from Max Out Savings Advisors, Ted Gioka.
Welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings, investments, in your retirement. Our show is all about saving money, building up wealth, and understanding the world today. Our motto and our philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. That's save aggressively, invest conservatively. That, my friends, is the key to building up wealth over the long term. You always want to start that by putting away as much money into your savings plan, your qualified savings plan, your 401k, your 403, your different types of savings plans. Basically, there's a couple reasons for that. And the number one reason is that you're going to get a tax deduction when you do that. So the minute you do that, you're lowering your taxes. And so when you do your taxes, you're going to get some money back because you put the money away. Number two is you're getting tax-free growth over the long term, over 25, 30 years in a plan. We're just dealing with a plan right now that I think has been in existence 60 years or something like that, and it's just it's just tax-free growth all the whole way up, and so that makes a huge difference. The other thing you're really looking at too is this is income-based savings. You're paying yourself first. The money's coming out first, so then you can sit there. Once you've got this down, you can sit there and spend the rest of your money, as much as you want. So the money goes into your 401k plan. You put it away, and that's it. Okay, then you can spend the rest of the money, and you don't have to worry about it. It's very, very hard for the average person to put away, if their every paycheck is $2,000, for them to write a check for $200 and put it into the bank, into the savings account. It's so hard to do. And even if you do it at the bank and you move it over there automatically, you change banks one year, you forget to do it or whatever. There's not enough money in there because you're buying a new car, you have a medical bill or a vacation or something. There's always a reason. And so if you sit there and you can sit there and put that money away automatically ahead of everything else, you're going to get ahead. So your savings plan never stops. I would say the final reason, but another big reason is typically you're going to get a company match of 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%. Some cases it's more a year. So let's just say you get 4%. A 4% match is and if you put in 10%, you get a 4% match. That's an automatic 40% a year on your money. I mean, people will, everyone on planet Earth will make an investment if they're pretty sure they're going to get 40% back with no risk. And so take advantage of these plans. We talk a lot about them at the beginning of the show, but this is the bedrock. This is where it all starts. This is how you come in and you retire. You've got $2.5 million in savings in different accounts. That's how you do it. It's not rocket science. It's not because you're Warren Buffett. It's not because you're making millions of dollars a year. It's because you put away that money in a qualified savings plan and built up your wealth. Very simple. Now, you conservatively invest it. Now, the other way is you could buy Bitcoin too and make a fortune, but that's another story. And it actually seems like no one over the age of 40 actually did that. So here we are today. We're in a world Oh, the market's up about. You haven't checked the latest numbers on it, but it's up. It's up 6-7% year to date. It's sort of chugging along. It had basically a mini bear market in the middle of it when Trump announced tariffs, shocking everybody, even though he sat there and told everybody exactly what he was going to do. And and so then it recovered for the fastest recovery. Actually, it dropped from that 15% back up after he announced the tariffs. It was about 15% drop because it was already dropping a little ahead of time. That was the fastest recovery in history, which is is very interesting, and it really seems to be a combination of a lot of short covering as well as a situation where we had people just still want to be in the market. They believe in Donald Trump. So the market's actually up over 8% now. And this year, interestingly enough, the market's not the biggest returns year to date. It's really been the metals. It's been the platinum. It's been copper. It's been silver, gold. All of those are up over 20% year to date. We're really getting a big time metals thing. It's being driven by two things. What's going on there? Two things. Number one, well, I'm not even say number one. Well, for the precious metal, it's out of control government spending, not just in the United States, but in every country, as we've talked about recently. Up until President Trump came in and he's trying to get things under control. Under Biden, we're borrowing an additional $1 trillion every 100 days. And I said on this show, no one even knows what $1 trillion is. If you start counting to a trillion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I forgot the number I quoted. I forgot it. It's something like 25,000, 30,000 years. It's some just absurd number. Virtually no one listening can really actually quantify to me what $1 trillion is. The number is so big. You can say, yeah, it's 1,000 billions, but it's just when you start coming up with the magnitude of the size, you just have to kind of start talking about the stars in the skies or something. Even then, I'm not even sure that it's just a ridiculous number, and yet we're managing to do it. Completely, utterly out of control spending. Is that under Biden, Joe Biden, the spending was averaging over 6.5% of GDP. With a good economy with low inflation. We've never seen that. We had big spending from COVID. The economy was shut down. The last year President Trump was in power, they had to spend huge amounts of money to stabilize it. And Joe Biden just came out and said, why can't we keep spending it? If you're the world's currency, then under modern monetary theory, you can actually spend as much money as you want, and we got a huge inflation out of it, and so here we are today. People are looking at this and like, look, just give me gold, give me silver. The Federal Reserve can't print those, and and people around the world, China, Russia, the Arab countries, India, are like, look, the United States is confiscating people's money if they go to, they're in a battle with Russia, so they took, they froze their holdings and treasuries at the Federal Reserve. And once you did that, every country in the world, this was pretty obvious at the time, and we said it on the show, was going to look for an alternative. So, looking at the alternative, they came up with gold. And looking at gold, since what was that? Since 2020, when was that war? 2022, 23? Somewhere in there, gold has gone from. Let's see where gold has gone since that happened. Let's see here. Bear with me just a second. Since that happened, gold has doubled in price. Effectively doubled in price, little less than that. So once that happened, that triggered the move up, and so the precious metal stocks are doing well. The metal stock. The other reason is we have the electrification of much of the country. We've got a few things. We have a massive rollout of AI. AI is artificial intelligence is leading to the biggest increase in electricity generation probably since the invention of the air conditioning. And it's just enormous amounts of electrical power. The electrical power, in order to produce that electrical power, what do you need? You need copper. You need copper for the wires. You need copper for the motors. You need copper for the generators. You need copper as a conductor. You need copper in the solar power arrays. You need silver in the solar power arrays. You need silver in the electric cars. You need copper in the electric cars. You need copper. You need huge amounts of copper in the AI centers themselves. You need silver in there. You need aluminum in there. You need aluminum wire. The list goes on. Platinum, gold, all of these things are used in these. The electric cars, the same thing. And so there's been a huge demand for these commodities. It takes. I've seen different numbers, but 10 years is the rock bottom minimum to put a copper mine in. Same with the gold mine, other mines. Talking to someone the other day, it was on a gold mine actually, and they're like, look, we sort of have a plant nearby. We think we can get it going, and there's already construction in there. There's a tunnel in there. We think we can get it done in 3 years, 3.5 years, and that's what's kind of a lot of the infrastructure right there. It's sort of working on a couple of permits and stuff. It's just I was talking to someone else on a big silver mine, and look, we're just waiting on the permits, and permitting alone cost a fortune. And so if you look at gold, there's been really very, very few major gold mines. A lot of the big gold mines were found in the 70s and the 80s. There hadn't really been any big gold mines. Same with copper. There's been not much has been found out there. So this is this is the bedrock. The artificial intelligence, the electric cars, all of that is built on a bedrock of metals because of its electricity usage, and that's why those are the best performing stocks. I mean, we actually talked about in the show. We get calls from clients. Ted, we need to get more into Palantir. We need to get more into this. We need to get more into tech stock. We need to do this. Why aren't we in this? Even Tesla. I'm like, guys, your gold stocks are up more than most of those stocks are year to date. It's like you've got this big trend out there, and so that's where the big performance is coming in. Now here we are. The market's doing pretty well. The other interesting area that's doing well is, and it's been a little harder to invest in a way because the stocks are so expensive, is the manufacturing area. Outside of automobiles, I mean, candidly, I don't know what the hell Ford and General Motors are doing making cars at all. They should be making airplanes. They should be making electric transformers. They should be making electric power lines. I mean, anything. These manufacturing companies, the PEs on are 25 to 35 to 50 PE ratios on these companies. And it's really it's remarkable. There's a manufacturing renaissance going on out there, and so why this is important. What you understand is look, China came in, I want to say in 1995 into the World Trade Organization, and once they did that, they just came over to the United States, and they basically started, going in and selling their products. Said, hey, we can make them cheaper. If we had better products, we have better technology. If we had better metallurgy, we have better patents. They would just come in and steal it. It was easy. I mean, I just saw a thing that Microsoft on one of their systems, their document storage system, the Chinese had broken into it. They were stealing. Supposedly, they got into our nuclear weapons facilities where we're storing all, and they're just taking the documents out. It's truly extraordinary in the United States of America how we've let all our national secrets, we've put them on put them in on computers that could easily be hacked. You can't hack a file cabinet. And it reminds me of Funac, a company we invested in a couple of years ago. We're not in it now, but Funac is probably the best robotics maker in the world for factories and stuff in Japan. Well, they have this huge factory. It's in the shadow of Mount Fuji. There's no computers in there that are connected to the outside. There's nothing at all in there because they don't want anybody coming in and stealing their stuff. There's no cell phones in there. There's no wireless in there. There's nothing in there because they don't want to stop it. In the United States, it's like open kimono for technology at the United States of America. And it's all because these big tech companies have sat there and been allowed to run roughshod, convincing all these corporations foolishly to go put everything on the internet because they can, and their document management systems because they can quote save money and stuff. But there was no protection of our national security. But that's another story. But what I really want you to understand, and I'm going to expand about this on China because we've got to take a break, is this is a big long-term trends that are reversing, and these are big moves, and this is why we're seeing some of this stuff happening. And I'm going to talk about where do we go from here, right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka is taking your calls now at 713-339-1070. Ted Gioka will return after these messages.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Staying Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement.
I'm Sam Malone, president of 512 New Media. We're Houston's leading marketing and content creation firm for many reasons. Our assets are exceptional, from video production to web design, strategy, and the ability to say no. Saying no is integral in launching a successful, profitable campaign. For example, take a look at Memorial Day. It's a federal holiday set aside to honor and mourn those in our U.S. military who died while serving our country. I'll say it again, for those who died while serving our country. So how does having a sale work in unison with the reason for the day off? Look, we know people will be at the beach and barbecuing and having parties. We would probably say no to launching a Memorial Day sale. So is there another way to commemorate the day while marketing your brand? Absolutely. And from our experience, the same holds true with Easter Day sales and MLK Day sales and Christmas Day sales. That's why we're different. No cookie cutter, follow the crowd, template marketing. Let's talk. We're 512 New Media. 512 New Media. With better marketing comes better value, creating better results.
We return now to the Max Out Savings Show. Here's Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. We're talking savings investments in your retirement. I want to mention one of our sponsors, Rangoni Alto Gin. It's a fine botanical gin from the Italian Alps. It's an organic, all-natural product, and they put together this gin with some of the recipes that go back hundreds of years in the mountains up in they developed these botanical drinks that actually goes back to Roman times, and they've been able to use the same basic technology, not technology, but the same recipes to sit there and put together a really spectacular craft botanical gin. So if you get a chance, it's Rangoni Alto Gin. You can get it at Specs, Total Wine. Look for the kingfisher bird on the label. It's Rangoni Alto Gin. Now, we're talking about China. China came into the WTO in 1995. Since then, they have been basically stealing our technology, stealing our manufacturing factories, and moving them all to China. And finally, President Trump is putting a stop to it. We're raising substantial tariffs on them. The COVID really forced a lot of companies to realize, because keep in mind that a lot of the factories were shut down in China. We weren't able to get even critical medicines to get to our people in the United States. This is why, the Max Out Savings Show, caught the dangers of COVID ahead of almost everybody else out there. We talked about it on the show, and we sent it out on our free newsletter. But look, this is a real threat. This is going to be a problem. You've got to be careful. You don't want to reduce risks. And our work says we looked at the research. It came out of London, out of some of the medical the Lancet magazines, and then we noticed that China was shutting down factories in manufacturing across China. We realized that the danger of it, which was just astonishing, is in the United States. Everyone we talked to, a lot of medical people said, no, it's nothing. It should be just a kind of, it's a severe flu. And that might have been, it was a severe flu, but it really panicked, and you could tell what was going to happen over here. But so they shut down. We realized that that many of our critical things in the United States were coming from China. So we're moving the factories back here. Now, here's the important thing to understand is, look, from 1995 almost to now, China is in a very severe recession. It's a lot of it's real estate induced. Chinese, they don't invest in the stock market. They're huge savers. They invest in real estate. Well, everyone's buying real estate up, and then everyone's buying another house, and then in China, if you don't live in the house, it's more valuable. So they'll buy the house and nobody lives in it. In the United States, it's like, we got to have cash flow coming back. Let's get a renter in there. But they're like, no, keep it. It's brand new and it's worth more money. So what happened is they're in a real estate bubble. It blew up like we had in the 1970s when Reagan? One of them changed the tax laws. Carter, Reagan, they changed the tax laws, reduced kind of the accelerated depreciation and things in the real estate market collapsed. They're the same thing over there. That's the first really severe recession these people have had in the last probably 25 years. And so it's been an almost uninterrupted growth up. Now, the important thing about that is, if we could start bringing back the factories here, we can add a couple percent, we can add 1% or 2%, 1% or 2%, maybe just 1.5% of GDP every year to our economy because we're adding these factories back. I mean, Trump was just, crowing about his new his tariff pact with Japan. They're going to put $500 billion in. Well, we've been using $500 billion of the number of factories that are coming in the next 2 or 3 years in the United States. That's just Japan. I mean, the numbers they're using are well over $2 trillion now. So we can get some good growth coming out of that, and that's something to kind of we want to continue to watch. I think it's something exciting. The problem we have is we have out of control federal spending. So now they're getting that under control. We recently had a surplus. We're going to start borrowing money here now that we've passed the One Beautiful bill. Because keep in mind, since January 21st, we haven't had any borrowing coming into because there's been a debt limit put in place, additional borrowing, and so now we're going to see is this going to force up rates? Is all the new borrowing coming from China? Is all the borrowing coming from Europe? Is going to help? Is that going to help or hurt things? I think that's that's the thing we have to kind of watch here, and we want to continue to look at countries around the world are spending money, and so I think the idea that inflation is going away is just not in the cards right now, and so this is why gold is going up. This is why silver. This is why copper. This is why these metals are all going up. It's what the market's kind of go up. If you look at the money supply, it's starting to rise again. The money supply went down from about April 22 down to about April 23rd, but since then it's been rising at a pretty good clip. And so here we are, pretty much looking at the same thing. And if you look at year to date, we're looking at the money supply. Let me see here. It was about 21. And so that's closer to 22. So it's up about 4% already. So So I don't think this inflation is going away. I think what we have talked about in this show, what have expanded about this show, the importance of spreading out your risk in the market into different asset classes, for setting up for multiple. This is the key. Well, it's not just setting up different assets, but setting up for multiple potential outcomes of some type of issues with borrowing, where interest rates shoot up. The possibility of inflation, the possibility of some type of currency crisis around the world, those type of things, the possible failures of government auctions in the United States or elsewhere. So you spread your risk out. That in that world, I think that you spread it out for multiple outcomes. Hey, the economy starts really booming from here and going forward. That's another one of those things you want to look at. That's another one of those possibilities. And so we're going to be dealing with a much, much more volatile market. Now, right now, summertime, the market is very quiet. It's been quiet for a month or so, like nothing to see here. I think that's going to change. Likely as soon as people come back from the summer, possibly sooner. And this is something we're just going to have to kind of watch and see. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now with the market. What I want you to understand is we're undergoing a historic transformation in the United States. We're trying to sit there. We're boosting revenue through tariffs. We're forcing factories to come back into the United States. We're fundamentally restructuring the United States. We're cutting government spending. I tell you, the other interesting area you're starting to hear a lot more of, and you're going to hear quite a bit more of, is NGOs and these different charitable organizations. With NGO is non-government organization, and what we're seeing is, you saw it with USAID, where they had this money went out to these NGOs, and they would charge, like, the classic one was, I think it was like $900,000 to put on a transvestite play in Bolivia. And if you sit down and think about it, honestly, I could probably put a play on a good one for a couple $100,000. So the money was siphoned off to different people putting these deals together up in Washington, D.C. They're almost like businessmen where, hey, I'll put together the project, or a developer or something, and they take 10% or they take 20% of the deal. That's what's been happening up in Washington, D.C. is the real business. The dirty secret to Washington, D.C. is the real business of the United States has shifted from Wall Street over to Washington, D.C., where we have that's where if you're a smart businessman, you go to Washington, D.C., you do deals, you do something there. You're going to go try to help out somebody. Going to help out the Indians, going to help out someone in Uganda. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. And you're going to grant. You get a $10 million grant to put in solar power plants on little villages in Uganda. It costs maybe $8 million to do the whole deal. You as the head of the organization pocket $2 million. Now, maybe you pocket over 2 or 3 years, because you're getting paid and stuff. I use that in parentheses, but that's really what this is all about. If you look at California, the American people raised $100 million to help these poor people in California, and the money has gone all over the place. The Indian voting programs, for American Indians, every NGO and all these other people that had nothing related to the people of California. They sent it to one organization that helped people in mobile homes. So there was 2 mobile home parks that burned up. They called all the people up there, and they go, "No, we haven't had any help at all." So where did all the money go? So the Trump administration is going to investigate this. But the biggest growth sector of the United States of America in the last decade or two has not been AI. It's been non-government organizations, charities, and foundations. Enormous amounts of money have poured into these things. It's a lot of it is a dirty business. A lot of people are getting incredibly wealthy of it. I've said it before. 5 or 6 of the top wealthiest zip codes in the United States are on Washington, D.C. Where did that money? How did these people get all that money? It certainly wasn't working for the EPA as a mid-level administrator. Even a top level administrator probably wasn't making that much money. So somebody is getting, and so this is something they're really, I mean, this is kind of a political thing. It doesn't have to do with the max out savings, but what it does have to do is our country has been borrowing $1 trillion every 100 days. This money has been recklessly spent all over the place, enriching Democratic operatives and, quite frankly, some Republican operatives. And it's time to come to an end, because if we don't get this under control, all this, growth strategy of these factories coming back to the United States, all the renewal of the United States and everything else is going to go up in flames in a hyperinflation due to out of control spending by the federal government. And that's why we bring these things up. It's important. There's people that struggle in this country every day that could use some help, and instead of us helping them, there's people camping out, drug dealers drug users on the street, clogging our cities, engaged in theft to support their habits. Nobody's helping those people. Nobody's helping. No one's helping the average American. But these people are basically have their hands in the pockets of the American people, and it needs to come to an end. And again, sorry for the little kind of rant here on this today, but we have to understand where the big issue is going. We have to understand where the money is going in this country, and we have to make sure that it goes to the right people. It is wisely spent, because it's the taxpayers' money, and our spending is out of control. We're borrowing money at 6.5% of GDP. There's no way that this doesn't work. If this continues, it's going to be a hyperinflation that will wipe out the United States. And the best place you can do to see that is go look at Argentina. Argentina was a very successful country after World War I and World War II. It's always kind of really very affluent, get a lot, and all of a sudden it just started collapsing into constant hyperinflations all the time. And so this is something important to understand. Now, if you got any questions or comments, you can give us a call at 713-339-1070 here at the Max Out Savings Show. One other thing, another area when it comes to expenses at retirement, one of the biggest area for most people expenses is insurance, and it's important to continue to just as an example, I think health insurance is gone from, in the last 20 years, has gone from $6,000 a year to $24,000 a year for the American family, which is just extraordinary. It's been about a 6% growth rate. Now, a lot of people, when you're retired, you're on Medicare, so that helps you out. Auto insurance over the last decade has gone up 7%, and this just makes no sense at all. Yes, cars have gotten a little more expensive. It's a combination of cars have gotten more expensive, they're more complicated, which makes them more expensive to repair. And the other thing is there's a lot of insurance fraud. I talked to a friend of mine, she was a nurse, and I said, well, how is it going? Do y'all get a lot of business there? And she goes, they're like, yeah, we get these people. They just line up wanting CAT scans or something, claiming they're injured. The lawyers send them over to these clinics to sit there and, all the time, someone gets rear-ended and all of a sudden their neck hurts or something, and they're suing, and they're running up the cost of people's insurance. In retirees, this is very difficult to pay. The average, it's $2,400, almost $2,500 for insurance. And if you got two people and two cars, it's materially more than that, as we all know. And so what do you do in that type of situation? A couple things. You could raise your deductible up a little bit from $500 to $1,000, or $2,000, even $2,000. With the thinking being is, look, if I'm pretty cautious, I don't get too many wrecks. It'll pay off. The other thing is check with the insurance companies. I was just looking at different insurance companies. I was surprised how they really were very much all over the place. As far as the premiums, if this is just for average car insurance, this is across the country, they range from about $1,452 for nationwide to $3,000 for Allstate. and Farmers was over 3,000. Now some of these things are averages, and if Nationwide is not Nationwide, but if say Farmers does a lot in California and Nationwide's more in the middle of the country, that might explain some of the differences. But the differences, Allstate was the most expensive, but I would check with the different ones. You got Allstate, you've got Farmers, you've got Geico, you've got Nationwide, you've got Progressive, State Farm, Travelers, USAA. Travelers, USAA, and Nationwide are the cheapest. So this is one way you can save quite a bit of money with shopping around in your insurance. I'm not a big fan of getting a little computer thing in your car so they can see what a good driver you are. I mean, candidly, I'm not sure I would qualify. But I don't like the idea of somebody spying on my driving. That really bothers me. But but there are ways. So when it comes to insurance, look around, try to save money. Remember, when it comes to retirement, most people are on somewhat of a fixed income. Even if you've got an IRA, you want to try to fix your income and you're pulling it off of that. And so every dollar you save is a dollar left you have to take out of your IRA, and it keeps money in your pocket. So when you're looking for auto insurance, shop around to a couple different companies. We'll be right back right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka will return shortly. To speak with Ted Gioka now, call 713-339-1070. Back in a moment with the Max Out Savings Show.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400, or visit maxoutsavings.com.
Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. Our motto and philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. The world is changing at a faster rate than any time in the last 50 years. The investment world has changed. Have you changed? Inflation will destroy your retirement. It is a different world that requires different strategies and ideas. The era of indexing and investing is over. If you need help, listen to the Max Out Savings Show. Our show airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. We talk about investments, the world, and where the world is going today, and help you understand it and help you save money and build up wealth. It's the Max Out Savings Show. And if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. On the website, you can sign up for the free Max Out Savings Report. Our report covers all types of these big issues, the changes in the world, that helps you understand and protect your retirement. So go to the website, maxoutsavings.com.
AM 1070, The Answer.
Once again, here's your host for the Max Out Savings Show, Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. We're just talking. We actually want to mention one of our sponsors, Rangoni Alto Gin. It's a fine botanical gin from the Italian Alps, all natural, organic gin. It's got an incredible flavor profile. It's won numerous medals the gold medals around the world. It's Rangoni Alto Gin. Look for the kingfisher bird on the label. You can get it at Specs and Total Wine. Now, we just talked about the importance of one of the big expenses as a retiree is your auto insurance. Easily can add up to over $5,000 a year. By shopping around, it's not unusual to save $500. I mean, that's pretty simple, actually, with a little luck. And you can also change, instead of a $500 deductible, to a $1,000 deductible or more. some of the things to look at. It's really fascinating. If you look at Elon Musk, his new robo-taxi, where we'll just be using robo-taxis to drive around everywhere, so people will have the ability to do that. I'm a big car guy, so I like cars. I like driving. I actually have a self-driving Tesla. I've got two gasoline cars. Well, I have one gasoline car and I have one diesel car, and plus an electric car, and so I think that's the engineer in me. But I still like to drive, even then. But if these electric cars can just drive you around everywhere, the robo taxis, you could use those. But the interesting thing about them is if you can just save the $5,000 a year in insurance, if for two people, it's or even if you're saving $2,500 a year, that works out to be $200 a month just on the insurance. That doesn't include gasoline, it doesn't include tires, automobile, or anything. And the only point is insurance has really gotten completely out of control in this country. And one of the things that really could help out the Tesla auto taxi, the self-driving taxi is out of control insurance. And I think we're going to have to somehow get control of insurance in the United States. I think most of the regulators have been much too light on it. I think they really got to get a whole lot tougher with the lawsuits on it. The running joke about you barely run into someone and they get out of their car, holding their neck. You're like, really? But anyway, back to where we are here. A couple of other things I just wanted to run it by. I came across some things about savings in your 401k plan. And they just say a 25-year-old with a $60,000 a year salary, they say could become a millionaire if they save 15% a year. If they save 15% a year, it increases at an average return of 7%. But that's by age 55. Okay, that's by age 55, which is, I think a lot of, but that just shows you, look, you're going to retire around 60 to 65, 70, somewhere in there. So my point is, you don't need 7%. You don't even need to save 50. If you save 10% plus you get a company match, even if things don't work, you're going to become a millionaire by the time 60. That's not going to be that hard. I want you to understand this isn't that hard to become a millionaire out there. And if you're just putting away that, let's say you put away, 12% plus you get a 3% match, which is, again, that's pretty simple. The 3% is on the low end. So this is not pie in the sky type of stuff. They're saying at 7%, you're going to be a millionaire. Well, hey, what if you don't get set? What if you get a little less? You're still going to be a millionaire by 65. You can go spend money all over the place, spend every dime you want, down at the bar every weekend, and not have anything and be a millionaire. That's reckless behavior. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, that shows you the power of these 401k plans. And again, look at Max Out Savings Advisors. We don't manage 401ks. People call us up and say, hey, Ted, this is my choices. What do you think? I'll give them some ideas. But our main business is managing funds after people retire. If they have an old 401k, they bring it over to us and we manage it. We custodian at Charles Schwab, and we manage it using our value investing approach. But this is so important that we always want to just keep reminding you the importance of what you're doing when you're putting that money into your plan, because this is going to ensure that you have a good retirement. Look, when you got a group of people spending $1 trillion, the government's spending $1 trillion additional borrowing every 100 days, and they have $37 trillion worth of debt. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where this is going and why it's important to protect yourself and your in your retirement with your own savings. Anyway, those are some ideas. A couple other things that we're looking at here. One of the more fascinating things about the insurance area has really been actually with inflation in general, has really been the fact that so many of the if you look at the four biggest components for inflation have been insurance, health care, schooling, and universities. Those are the big ones. Those are the really big ones. And if you notice, the three biggest, and they go way up compared to many of the other things, automobiles, everything else. It's been those things. And if all three of those it's where the government is most heavily involved. That's where, the government's setting rates. The government has these laws that people can sue everybody. And they used to be real tough on insurance companies, and they really aren't anymore. And auto insurance went up. Auto insurance since 2023 has gone up 24%. 24%. And so colleges, we have a huge number of our population is in debt. Young people are in debt, borrowing for college. College is one of the highest percentages of inflation. Again, the government was involved in it. The government funded all those loans. The government set it up so all these colleges, and you look at my college has got a big one too, had huge foundations that they grew, all their money grew tax free. What happened to all that money, and why did we see this type of inflation in college expenses? It wasn't, the average person. Well, it's really sad. When I went to school, which was in the 70s, it wasn't, honestly. I think it got tougher in the later 70s, but I don't know, early 70s. I'm not sure of there. I would say by the early 70s, I think any child that was reasonably smart, if they were pretty smart, could probably get into any college they wanted to. Now they might have to kind of go somewhere else, or go to get there in the summertime, or get on probation, or they could talk their way into even Harvard. Even Harvard, if you really wanted to get into Harvard, you could figure out a way to get into Harvard. And it's since then it's gone to, it's hard to get into even A&M. It's hard to get into, and it's like. And it's been completely different. And we talked about the show recently where in some of the schools, some of these elite schools, 25% of the students are foreigners. We have so many smart kids in the United States of America. Look, going to Texas A&M, one thing I learned at Texas A&M is, how many really smart kids, and actually really street smart kids in any way, I mean, not streetcar, but kids that could figure things out, came from some little bitty town that it seems like I've heard of them all now. I'm older, but little towns that no one's ever heard of in Texas. And yet somehow we have to take 25% of our best slots in the best universities in the United States and turn them over to foreign kids is ridiculous. But all of these things, look, I've brought up a lot of these problems. Look, a lot of these things are changing. Donald Trump is in there. He's making huge changes. If you look you look at his poll numbers, they're actually going up. This Epstein thing completely blew up. It really didn't even did his poll numbers. And there's a lot of Republicans not happy with that at all. But and by the way, I of all the people I've seen with Epstein, the one thing I've seen about Trump more than anything since the very beginning was how Trump did not like the guy, and how Trump banned him from his clubs. And I never saw one other person that actually stood up to Epstein except for Trump. And so, but his poll numbers are very good. People are supporting the big beautiful bill that came out. If you look at the numbers on that, they've been very good on what percentages of the people in the lowest quintile. They're the ones that really seem to come out the best. Now, you can kind of say, look, the rich got a little more money. Well, in fairness, they made more money. But when it came down to, hey, where did it make a difference on my income levels, that's where it seemed to really, it really kept the total average taxes paid. Let's see here, where is this? Let me try to do this again. Hold on. I had it right here. Bear with me just a minute. Okay, the average total change in federal taxes paid was on the lowest quintile is going to be a drop of 46%. This is in 2020, 15% in 2026. The second quintile is 14.9%. The middle quintile is 12%. The top quintile, 80 to 90, was 9% less taxes. 9.5 to 90 to 95. 95 to 99 was 11.2. So President Trump did that by giving you an additional $6,000 deduction if you're over the age of 65, so your taxes wouldn't, your Social Security wouldn't be paid. They boosted up the total distribution as well. Instead of itemizing, if you take the lump sum deduction, it's going up. Also, I think there's $1,000 or $2,000. I should have written this down. You can now deduct $1,000 or $2,000 off your taxes for charitable giving, because a lot of people are like, look, I'm just taking the standard deduction and I don't get my deduction, so I'm not getting the money. This way, you can still give the money and get a write-off there. There was no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Now, in both of these cases, there's kind of some income caps on that as well. So there was a lot of things pushed down to the middle class and lower middle class to try to help them out with that. And I think that's going to help the economy. President Trump he's fighting for working people. He's bringing the factories back to the United States. That's what's working people. And if you look at it, the polls are shift. People are starting to support Trump. Pretty much working people are supporting Trump in a huge. He basically went in and gutted almost the heart of the Democratic Party, which was the working people, the union people, and moved them over to the Republican Party. So I think there's good things happening out there. We've got these factories coming, like I said, $500 billion worth of factories at least. Businesses coming back to the United States. I think one thing that's really going to help out Texas is that, look, if you're putting a factory in, some of these places can't get electricity. If you look around, around that area from kind of Virginia up north, they don't have much power. There's a huge number of data centers around, AI centers around Washington D.C. that the government's all has, but they're at capacity on the grids up there. The nice thing about Texas is that even other places they're running into problems with even in like Pennsylvania, Ohio, on some of the power issues because the new AI centers use so much power. We've got huge amounts of solar power. We've got massive wind power up on the plains. We've got natural gas here. We're sitting in the catbird seat in Houston, in Texas, with extra power. This is going to help us out. Anyway, I hope everyone's enjoyed the show. Remember our motto and philosophy, which is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. If you need some help, a couple things. Go to our website, sign up for the free newsletter. It comes out once a month talking about all these big issues. You can also, our phone number's on the website. Give us a call.